Imagine being treated like the family's personal chef every Christmas, expected to cook, clean, and serve, while everyone else relaxes. Now, picture what happens when the holiday chef suddenly disappears on Christmas morning. Every family has roles. Some get to be the golden child, others a dramatic one. And then there's me, the holiday chef. Don't get me wrong, I love cooking. I love the smell of cinnamon rolls on Christmas morning, the turkey roasting, the way mashed potatoes soak up gravy like they were born for it. But there's a big difference between cooking because you love it and being treated like free labor. For years, my family decided that my role was to run the entire holiday kitchen. They didn't ask. They just expected it. Christmas Eve? That's me, chopping vegetables until midnight. Christmas morning? Me again, basting turkeys, setting timers, juggling 10 dishes while everyone else is still in their pajamas, opening presents. I'd peek in from the kitchen doorway, hands covered in flour, watching my sister unwrap another expensive gift while my brothers lounge with hot cocoa. Do you know what I got most years? An apron, like a twisted joke. At first, I told myself it was fine. I was good at it. I liked making people happy with food. But over the years, the thank yous disappeared. My mom started saying things like, "Don't burn the ham this time." My sister would complain that I never made enough pie. My brothers would wander into the kitchen just to ask when dinner was ready, then wander back out. No one offered to help. No one lifted a finger. I wasn't part of Christmas. I was a hired help. Last year was a breaking point. I'd been up since 5 a.m., kneading dough, preheating ovens, juggling casseroles. By the time dinner rolled around, I was running on caffeine and fumes. Everyone sat around the big table laughing, clinking glasses, while I was still in the kitchen washing pots. My dad actually had the audacity to call out, "Hey, don't forget the rolls," like I was some waitress he'd undertipped. I snapped. Not out loud. Not yet. But something inside me cracked. I realized I could vanish, and no one would even notice unless dinner didn't hit the table. So this year, I made a plan. When December rolled around, I played my role as usual. I talked about recipes, picked up special ingredients, pretended to fuss about oven space. I even let my mom remind me, 3 times, that I'd better not forget the cranberry sauce. But behind the scenes, I wasn't prepping a single thing. I booked myself a cozy cabin out of town. Nothing fancy, just a little rental with a fireplace, Wi-Fi, and a bed that didn't squeak like the one at my parents' house. I stocked it with snacks, wine, and a stack of movies I'd never had time to watch because I was always elbow deep in stuffing. On Christmas Eve, I played along. I helped wrap gifts, smiled through small talk, even set out the stockings. My family went to bed assuming I'd set my alarm for my usual ungodly cooking marathon. But at dawn, instead of heading to the kitchen, I grabbed my packed bag, slipped out the door, and drove to my cabin hideaway. By the time my family woke up, expecting pancakes and cinnamon rolls, I was already curled up by the fire in fuzzy socks, sipping hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. The first text came at 8:03 a.m. from my mom. "Where are you? The oven isn't even preheated." I ignored it. By 8:15, my sister chimed in. Mom says the turkey's still in the fridge? What's going on?" Still ignored. By 9 o'clock, the family group chat was in full meltdown. My brothers were arguing about who should peel potatoes. My dad was complaining that nothing was ready. My sister actually Googled how to cook turkey fast and sent screenshots, as if that would help. I set my phone face down and laughed so hard I nearly spilled my cocoa. For the first time in years, Christmas felt like Christmas. By noon, the messages had turned into calls. Missed call, another missed call. Then my mom left a voicemail that started polite, but ended in full-blown panic. "This is not funny. Everyone is hungry and nothing is ready. We have guests coming. You need to get here right now." Guests? Oh, yes. I forgot to mention, my family had invited extended relatives this year. They bragged about how my famous cooking would be the centerpiece, which meant, of course, they hadn't lifted a finger because why would they when I always magically handled everything? Except this year, the magic was gone. I pictured them frantically Googling how long to defrost turkey in microwave and nearly choked on a cookie. At 2 p.m., I finally answered a call. My mom's voice was frantic. "Where are you? The turkey is raw. The potatoes are hard, and everyone is starving." I sipped my wine and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't you say I'm a family chef?" "Well, the chef's on vacation." There was silence, then sputtering, then my dad yelling in the background, my sister whining about being embarrassed, my brothers apparently fighting over who burned the rolls. And I just smiled, because finally, it wasn't my problem. But here's the thing. Revenge is never simple. Because the moment they realized Christmas dinner was a disaster, my family decided they weren't just going to beg me back. No, they came up with a plan of their own. One that would turn my little holiday escape into something far messier than I'd ever imagined. I should have known my family wouldn't just sit in their misery and learn a lesson. That's the thing about selfish people. They don't stop to reflect. They scramble to fix the mess in the fastest, loudest way possible, even if it means making everything worse. By the evening of Christmas Day, after hours of burned potatoes and cold ham sandwiches, my phone buzzed with a new message from my sister. "Fine, you win, but don't think this is over." I almost spit out my wine. Over? What exactly did she think she was going to do? Sue me for turkey abandonment? But then the calls started again. Not just my mom or dad, but cousins, uncles, even grandma, each of them begging, guilt-tripping, or flat-out scolding me. Apparently, my family had painted me as the villain who ruined Christmas by selfishly disappearing. The irony made me laugh so hard I had to put my phone down. They ruined their own Christmas. I muttered to the fire, pouring myself another drink. They just don't like facing it. The cabin was bliss. No screaming, no oven timers, no one barging and asking for gravy. Just me, my snacks, and a cheesy holiday rom-com playing on the TV. For once, I wasn't serving anyone but myself. But the peace didn't last long. The next morning, around 10 a.m., there was a knock on the cabin door. My first thought, delivery? But I hadn't ordered anything. Second thought, oh no. I peeked through the window. And sure enough, there stood my mom, bundled in a coat, with my sister sulking beside her. I froze. They had actually tracked me down. The knock came again, harder this time. My mom's voice carried through the door. "Open up. We need to talk." I considered pretending I wasn't home. But my car was in plain sight, sitting in the driveway like a giant neon sign. So I opened the door. Slowly. "Surprise," I said, forcing a smile. Didn't expect company. My mom stormed in like she owned the place. My sister followed, rolling her eyes like I'd just ruined her holiday. "You think this is funny?" My mom snapped, tossing her gloves on the couch. "Do you realize what you did? Everyone was humiliated yesterday. The food was a disaster. Your uncle drove 2 hours for nothing. Your grandmother nearly cried." I leaned against the counter, crossing my arms. And all of that was my fault? Not the fact that not one of you knows how to boil water. My sister groaned. "You're being dramatic. You could have just cooked like always. Why make it such a big deal?" I laughed, loud, sharp, bitter. "Because I'm not your servant. I'm not here to be the unpaid holiday chef, while the rest of you sit on your butts. You think I enjoy spending Christmas chained to an oven?" My mom's jaw tightened. "Don't exaggerate. We appreciate what you do." "Appreciate?" I snapped. "You gave me an apron for Christmas 3 years in a row. You treat me like an appliance, not family." The silence after that was heavy. For once, they had no snappy comeback. Finally, my sister muttered, "So what? You're just done with us? You're going to hide out here every year while we starve." That's when it clicked. They weren't here to apologize. They weren't here to understand. They were here to pull me back in, to guilt me, shame me, and drag me right back into my old role. And that's when my wit turned sharp as a knife. "You know," I said slowly, "if you're all so helpless, maybe next year you should hire a caterer. Or, I don't know, actually learn to cook." My mom's face went red. My sister scoffed. "You're unbelievable." "Unbelievable?" I leaned forward, voice dropping to a whisper. Unbelievable is you expecting me to sacrifice my holiday every single year while you sit around doing nothing. Unbelievable is never once saying thank you. Unbelievable is thinking you can show up here and bully me back into the kitchen. My mom grabbed her gloves off the couch. You'll regret this. And with that, they stormed out. I closed the door behind them and locked it, my heart racing. For a moment, I thought maybe they'd finally get the point. That maybe, just maybe, they'd realize I wasn't playing their game anymore. But I underestimated just how petty my family could be. Because a week later, after I got back home, I found out they'd spread the story to every relative, neighbor, and family friend. And the version they told? Oh, it was gold. According to them, I'd abandoned them on Christmas out of spite. I'd ruined the holiday for everyone. I'd betrayed the family. They conveniently left out the part where they'd treated me like a servant for years. Suddenly, I was a villain of the family. The lazy, selfish one who left them all hungry. People actually call me asking, "Why would you do that to your parents?" And that's when I realized, if they want to paint me as a villain, fine. I'd give them a show. If they thought last Christmas was bad, they hadn't seen anything yet, because the next holiday, I wouldn't just disappear. I'd make sure my family's perfect Christmas collapsed so spectacularly that they'd never forget who had truly been holding it all together. The weeks after Christmas were awkward. Every family call turned into an ambush. My mom would sigh loudly, my dad would grumble in the background, and my sister never missed a chance to throw in a jab. "Oh, careful," she'd say. "Don't ask her to help or she'll abandon us again." At first, I tried defending myself. I reminded them how they'd treated me. I pointed out that no one had ever thanked me, not once, in all those years of slaving over a stove. But they weren't listening. They didn't want the truth. They wanted their scapegoat. So I stopped arguing. I smiled. I nodded. I let them believe their little story. Because deep down, I was already planning my masterpiece. By February, I knew exactly what I was going to do. The next Christmas, I'd still host the cooking. Oh, yes, I wouldn't disappear this time. I'd show up bright and early, ready to put on the apron. I'd let them feel smug, let them think I'd learned my lesson. And then, right when everything was at its peak, I'd flip the script. You see, cooking is power. The one who controls the kitchen controls the holiday. And I knew that kitchen better than anyone. I knew exactly how to make it all fall apart. So I started my prep months in advance. Every time I saw my family, I casually mentioned recipes. "This year, I'll make my special stuffing," I said, and my mom's face lit up with relief. "Don't worry, I'll handle the turkey," I promised, and my dad nodded approvingly. By summer, they were back to taking me for granted, back to bragging to relatives about our amazing chef, back to dumping all responsibility onto me. And I let them, because come December, they wouldn't know what hit them. The morning of Christmas Eve, I arrived at my parents' house with my ingredient bags in tow. My siblings were already lounging around, scrolling through their phones. My mom was in full command mode, rattling off what needed to be done. "Turkey at noon tomorrow. Potatoes by 4, pies by 5. She droned, barely even looking at me. I smiled sweetly. "Don't worry, I've got it under control." And technically I did. Step one of my plan was subtle. I accidentally bought the wrong size turkey. Way too big for their oven. I knew this because I measured it beforehand. When my mom saw it, she panicked. "This will never fit," she cried. I shrugged. "Guess we'll just have to improvise." Improvisation in my family meant chaos. Step 2, I swapped key ingredients. Sugar in the salt jar. Salt in the sugar jar. Baking soda instead of flour. I did it quietly, casually, while humming Christmas tunes. Step 3, timing. I set oven timers incorrectly, adjusted temperatures by just enough to ruin dishes. Too hot for pies, too low for casseroles. Nothing obvious, just enough to sabotage. By Christmas afternoon, the kitchen was a war zone. The turkey, charred on the outside, raw in the middle. The potatoes, a salty, gluey mess. The pies, Flat, bitter disasters. My mom fluttered around wringing her hands. What's happening? Why is everything ruined? My dad barked orders. Fix it. Do something. My sister stomped in, sniffing the air. Ugh, it smells burned. What did you do this time? I kept my expression innocent. I don't know. I followed everything exactly like always. Inside, I was howling with laughter. Outside, I put on the perfect mask of confusion and dismay. Guests began arriving at 4. By 5, the whole house smelled like scorched turkey and vinegar. Plates were served with half-cooked vegetables, gravy that tasted like ocean water, and pies that made people discreetly spit into napkins. And the best part? My family couldn't even blame me. Not openly, anyway. They bragged too much. They'd sworn up and down to everyone that I was the best cook. To admit I'd failed would make them look like liars. So they smiled painfully, trying to choke down the disaster. My cousin whispered, "Wow, this isn't like your usual cooking." And my sister snapped, "She's distracted this year." Distracted? Sure. By the end of the night, the guests left hungry, my parents were humiliated, and my siblings were sulking. And me? I sat back with a smug little grin, sipping wine, watching the empire crumble. Because for once, they got a taste, literally, of life without me. But revenge has layers. And I wasn't done. As everyone sulked in the living room, I slipped into the kitchen, phone in hand. I took pictures of the burned turkey, the collapsed pies, the watery gravy. Snap, snap, snap. Then I posted them to my private story with the caption, "Guess the family realized the holiday chef can't be taken for granted." It spread faster than cranberry sauce on a white tablecloth. By the next morning, relatives were texting me privately. Good for you. They had it coming. And my family? Oh, they knew. They knew I'd turned the tables. My mom confronted me the next day, face red with anger. "You embarrassed us." I smiled. "No, you embarrass yourselves. I just stopped cleaning up your mess." And that should have been enough. But my family, in their selfishness, made one final mistake. A mistake that pushed me from petty sabotage into a revenge so sharp and unforgettable it would haunt them every Christmas to come. After the disaster dinner, I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd finally get it, that they'd stop treating me like the household appliance with legs, that they'd sit down, reflect, maybe even apologize. But no. 2 weeks later, my mom called me, her voice dripping with forced sweetness. "So, about next Christmas, we'll need you to handle the food again, but this time, please don't mess it up." I nearly dropped my phone. "Excuse me?" "You proved your point," she said like she was offering me a medal. "Now, let's move on. Family is family." Move on? As if years of servitude were just water under the bridge. Then my sister chimed in on the group chat. "Yeah, no more drama this time. Just cook like you're supposed to." Supposed to. That was their mistake. Their final mistake. Because the moment they said it, my revenge sharpened from petty games to something much bigger. If they wanted me to cook next Christmas, I'd cook. Oh, I'd give them a feast. One they'd never forget. The months flew by. Every family gathering was the same. Little jabs, whispered jokes about last year's disaster. My siblings would smirk, my parents would sigh, and I played along. I let them believe I was crawling back into line. But behind the scenes, I was planning. I started saving recipes, real ones, elaborate ones, dishes that looked beautiful but hit a punchline. Not poison, don't worry. Nothing illegal. But food can be a weapon in the right hands. For example, have you ever eaten ghost pepper stuffing? Looks normal. Tastes like hellfire. Or cookies baked with salt instead of sugar, shaped perfectly so no one suspects a thing. Or a gorgeous chocolate cake filled with toothpaste-colored frosting that tastes exactly like, well, toothpaste. I practiced. I tested. I perfected. And by December, I had an entire menu ready. Christmas morning came, and once again, I arrived early with my bags. My parents greeted me with that smug, relieved look. My siblings didn't even bother to get up. "Glad you learned your lesson," my dad said, patting my shoulder. I smiled sweetly. Oh, you'll love dinner this year. And I meant it. I cooked all day, humming carols, keeping the kitchen spotless. I served appetizers first. Tiny meatballs spiced with just enough chili to make people sweat. My family fanned their mouths, laughing nervously. Bit spicy this year, huh? My cousin said, gulping water. Oh, just a little kick, I said innocently. Next came the stuffing, golden, fragrant, studded with cranberries. Everyone dug in until the fire hit. Ghost pepper stuffing. My brother's face turned beet red. My sister chugged wine like water. I kept refilling their plates, smiling the whole time. Then came the main event, the turkey, perfectly roasted, skin golden brown, smelling heavenly. They cheered when I brought it out. My mom actually clapped, and when I carved it open, instead of stuffing, a gush of neon green gelatin oozed out. Lime jello, sweet, wobbly, absurd. The looks on their faces were priceless. What the hell is this? My dad barked. I shrugged. A creative twist. Dessert was the grand finale. A towering chocolate cake, flawless on the outside. Everyone leaned in, eager for redemption after chaos. My sister cut the first slice, slid her fork in, and took a bite, and gagged. Because instead of creamy frosting, I'd filled the layers with mint toothpaste mixed with cream cheese. Edible, technically. Delicious? Absolutely not. The table erupted in shouting. My mom slammed her fork down. My dad cursed. My siblings wailed about another ruined Christmas. And I sat back, sipped my wine, and said, looks like the holiday chef is officially retired. The fallout was nuclear. Relatives talked for weeks. Did you hear what she served? Jell-O turkey? Toothpaste cake. My family tried to spin it. Of course. They claimed I'd sabotaged everything on purpose, that I was cruel, heartless. But by then, everyone knew the truth, because I made sure to document every second. Pictures, videos, even a little commentary about how this is what happens when you take someone for granted. I uploaded the montage to a private group chat with all the relatives. Within hours, the sympathy shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't, why did you ruin Christmas? But why don't they ever help you cook? My family's reputation tanked. Their bragging rights disappeared. And me? I walked away with my head high. But here's the kicker. Revenge doesn't just end cleanly. Because after that night, my family made one last desperate move. A move so pathetic and petty that it opened the door for my final, shocking twist. After the toothpaste cake fiasco, I thought I was done. I'd served my masterpiece of chaos, handed them a holiday they'd never recover from, and finally freed myself from the chains of being the family chef. But my family wasn't finished. The week after Christmas, my mom called me again, not to apologize, not to admit they were wrong. No, she called to say this. You're banned. I blinked. Banned? Yes, she snapped. From Christmas, from holidays, from family dinners. If you can't behave, you don't belong. I laughed so hard I had to sit down. You're telling me I'm banned from the very job you forced me into? Don't be smug, she hissed. We'll manage just fine without you. And that was their final mistake. Because the next Christmas, I didn't sabotage them. I didn't cook for them. I didn't even show up. Instead, I did something far worse. I hosted my own Christmas. By September, I'd already rented a venue, a cozy hall with twinkling lights and a professional kitchen. I invited everyone my family had ever bragged to, cousins, uncles, neighbors, friends. Basically, everyone they'd been humiliating me in front of for years. But here's the twist. I told them the truth. I told them how I'd been treated like free labor, how they'd never helped, never thanked me. People were shocked. They were sympathetic. Some even confessed they'd always wondered why my mom acted like she cooked everything when it was clearly me. So I made a promise. Come to my Christmas. You'll eat like royalty. And oh, did they. I cooked everything myself. Not because I had to, but because I chose to. I served the dishes I loved, the ones that actually made me happy. Tender turkey, buttery rolls, decadent pies. The works. Word spread fast. On Christmas Eve, the hall was buzzing with laughter, warmth, and plates pile high. People toasted to me. They clapped when dessert came out. They even gave me real gifts, thoughtful ones, not aprons. And back at my parents' house, from what I heard, it was a disaster. They'd tried cooking on their own. The turkey was raw again. The sides were bland. The kitchen looked like a war zone. And worst of all, hardly anyone showed up, because almost everyone had chosen to come to my Christmas instead. The next morning, I got a text from my sister. Just 2 words. Traitor. Show off. I smiled, because for the first time, the roles had flipped. I wasn't a forgotten cook anymore. I was the host, the center, the one people wanted to celebrate with. And my family, they were left in their empty dining room, stewing in their bitterness, realizing too late that they had pushed away the very person who'd made their holidays shine. So now, every December, I rent that hall again. My found family gathers. Friends, cousins, neighbors, anyone who actually appreciates me. We eat, we laugh, we celebrate. My parents and siblings, they're never invited. Not anymore. Because my revenge wasn't just making their dinners collapse. It was stealing Christmas itself right out from under them. And the best part? They handed me the knife and fork the day they said, "We'll manage just fine without you." Turns out they couldn't, but I could. So now, every year, when my mom drives past a glowing hall filled with music and the smell of roasted turkey, she knows Christmas isn't hers anymore. It's mine, and she'll never get it back. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.